I think it's important to keep in mind that when we're using activity-based costing here in a customer context, we're not talking about product costs or overhead costs that are specific to a manufacturing plant. We're just trying to determine if we have certain customers that are more profitable or less profitable than others. And so all we're doing is taking that activity-based costing approach and applying it to costs other than manufacturing overhead. And in this situation, we've got costs that are caused by this activity called order filling, and we're not really sure what that means, but we can maybe draw some conclusions that that's what we have to pay people to prep the order or take it from the customers and I don't know, maybe ship it out to the specific customer, something like that. And then the sales force cost would be the costs that we have to support the customers in the way of sales representatives and maybe credit collections, that sort of thing. And so we're not going to take a peanut butter spread approach, which is what happened up here. You can see the order filling costs were simply split in half between the large customer and the 10 smaller customers, and that was based off of units purchased, I believe. And so we're going to take this total order filling cost of $404,000, because that's the total when you add those two together, and we're going to say, okay, it cost, the problem tells us our activities are the orders and calls that we make to the customer. So the order filling costs are $404,000, and we're going to spread that out over total number of orders placed, which is 2 plus 200. Makes sense, right? The big customer only makes 2 orders and the smaller customer makes 200. And the allocation base, the rate, I guess, is going to be $2,000 for every order that's placed. Now, obviously, the smaller customers are going to absorb more of that cost because they place way more orders. And my sales force costs, I guess I don't have this labeled real well here. My sales force costs, I'll just put them down here, are the 110 plus the 110, so we have $220,000 of sales force related costs. We're going to divide that. Our allocation base is going to be number of calls, and we're told here we place 10 calls to the large customers and 210 to the small customers. So we'll have a total of 220 calls. That means we're going to allocate to every call $1,000. So now what we can do is down here I've listed between our large customer and our 10 smaller customers, we're going to split up both the order filling costs and the sales force costs to determine what's a better allocation of these costs we've incurred for customer related expenses. So for the large customer, remember the order filling, they took and placed 2 orders. We're going to multiply those 2 orders by the $2,000. And the sales force costs, we placed 10 calls, and we're going to multiply that times the allocation rate per call. And so if you take and you sum this up, the total costs allocated to the large customers, or customer I guess in this case, it's singular, it's $14,000. Now watch how much the small customers absorb. We're going to take that same $2,000 per order, and we're going to multiply that by the 200 orders that are placed amongst the 10 smallest customers. So they're going to absorb $400,000. And for the sales force costs, it's going to be this $1,000 per sales call times the number of calls placed to the smaller customers, which is 210. And so our total is the sum of both of those, which is $610,000. So this is significantly different when you look at what we had done prior to this activity-based costing approach. Now that makes a company skeptical, or maybe makes it rethink how they're pricing products, and maybe they'd even want to get rid of these customers. We're not sure about the profitability of these customers, but at minimum they might want to raise their prices. And again, I'd probably just run a cross total here to make sure that I've correctly allocated all of my sales related costs or customer related costs. So 624,000. And remember, these were the two costs right here, the total cost pools, that is. And so I would add those up, and I've correctly accounted for the 624,000. So at that point, I would consider the problem complete.